important accessory for any Treasury chief. A relic hanging on to the past with the tenacity of a spider's web on a wall, steeped in history and bearing the big secrets of the government's fiscal plans. But tonight, it is symbolic of the web of the secrets of Treasury's financial mischief, a laundry list of misdeeds that the top man at the heart of government has somehow managed to shake off until now.
The walls of the Aurora and Kimwarer dams have caved in, and now top officials at the Treasury have been swept up in the sludge. Tonight, the anti-graft purge that has brought down one of the president's top men, with the president having promised to take action against anyone on just even a whiff of corruption.
Our coverage of the errors that brought down the faces of Treasury begins right now. First, the highlights.
Tonight, CS Rotich, PS Thuge and PS Susan Koech are in custody.
The persons we are charging today were mandated with safeguarding our public interest and deliberately to breach this trust.
More officials from KVDA and NEMA also arrested.
Plus, dams that never were. The startling revelations.
There is no evidence that land has been acquired 4 years down the line.
DPP breaks down how the alleged scam was executed.
We borrowed, the loan had interest. We borrowed more money to pay the interest.
And from the first Eurobond to the dam scam, how CS Rotich is likely to be remembered.
Also tonight, not bird flu, not swine flu. Ministry of Health warns of a contagious strain of influenza virus after patient succumbs.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Smriti Vidyarthi.
Welcome to this news broadcast. David Agondoa is our sign language interpreter. We have full team coverage tonight as Brenda Wanga unpacks the error that finally cost the top men at Treasury their jobs, and Ken Mijungu examines how they moved the numbers around the numbers that drained the dams.
Seth Olale is at the Muthaiga police station and will be giving us an overview of what lies ahead for CS Rotich and all those arrested. But first, the crucial Ministry of Finance is tonight without a cabinet and a principal secretary. The two currently in police custody in what is one of the most high-profile arrests in the onslaught against graft.
Brenda Wange has been following this story and she joins us now in studio. Brenda, how did these two and 26 others end up as guests of the state today?
Well, Dennis, Smriti, the CS and the PS and the others in the list of 28 suspects were arrested on the orders of the Director of Public Prosecutions over their involvement in the Aurora and Kimwarer dam scandals. Also arrested today were officials of the Kerio Valley Development Authority and the Director General of the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, Geoffrey Wahungu. Now here's a quick breakdown of how the walls of the dams scam caved in on the suspects. Months of investigations have laid bare the dealings that went into the Aurora and Kimwarer dams scandal. Those details have now netted the anti-graft war its biggest fish yet.
Today directed the DCI to effect the arrest and immediate arraignment before court of the accused persons named below herein. 1. Henry Kiplagat Rotich, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury.
The CS will be in the dock alongside his Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge, Chief Economist Kennedy Nyakundi and Director of Resource Mobilization Jackson Kinyanjui. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of East Africa Community Susan Koech and the Inspector General of the Inspectorate of State Corporations Titus Murithi are other senior ministry officials facing prosecution.
I am satisfied there is sufficient evidence to charge and prosecute the perpetrators.
In the wake of that announcement, the CS left Treasury for the DCI, where he presented himself for processing before the case goes to court. Officers from the Kerio Valley Development Authority did not have that luxury of handing themselves in. Around midday, they were arrested while in the presence of the organization and taken to the DCI offices in Uasin Gishu. Amongst those wanted are the Managing Director, David Kimosop, the Head of Supply, William Kipkemboi Minor, and the Manager for Engineering, Paul Kipkoech. Those who sat on the tender committee are also on the DCI's radar. The director of the Italian company, CMC di Ravenna, Paolo Porcelli, alongside two unnamed officials, will also be charged in court. So will the CEO of NEMA and two other officials. NEMA's Geoffrey Wahungu was arrested at his home in Tharaka Nithi. The 28 suspects will answer to charges that include conspiracy to defraud, willful failure to comply with the applicable procedures and guidelines relating to procurement, engaging in a project without prior planning, abuse of office, committing an offence of financial misconduct, fraudulent acquisition of public property, knowingly giving a misleading document to principal, and willful neglect to perform official duty. The KVDA officials will be brought to Nairobi and alongside the CS and other ministry officials be charged in court tomorrow. Brenda Wanga, NTV. Well, the DPP no doubt shook the nation with the order for the arrest of the CS and the 27 other suspects. But while Rotich wasn't bundled into a police car, instead he surrendered to the police. Other suspects were arrested outside the capital and were brought to Nairobi for questioning and will spend the night in various police stations. My colleague Seth Olale is at the Muthaiga police station and has more on the long nights ahead for the suspects. Seth?
Thank you very much. Well, there is heavy police presence here at the Muthaiga police station, where we are reliably informed that the CS4 Treasury Henry Rotich, together with the Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge, are being detained, and the police are not allowing even the media to film just outside the gate where we usually do our piece to cameras. They're saying that this particular area is a no-go zone, but it is not only prohibited for the media, but also for many other persons who want to gain access to the Muthaiga police station. We've seen lawyers, a stream of lawyers just trying to troop inside the Muthaiga police station, but they have been denied access. Unknown persons have also arrived here with high-end cars, but they too are not allowed to gain access into the Muthaiga police station, where is just like a kilometers from where I'm standing. And the police, according to the police, who restricted us from even getting access just near the gate, they're telling us that it remains a no-go zone. But remember that it is not just the CS Henry Rotich, together with his PS Kamau Thuge, who are being detained tonight. We also have the former principal secretary for East Africa Community, that is Susan Jemutai. We're being told that she's being detained either at Gigiri Police Station or Kileleshwa Police Station. Remember that they spent, together with CS Henry Rotich and all the other suspects who were detained earlier on, they spent up to 5 hours at the DCI headquarters, where they underwent an intense grilling accompanied by one lawyer each representing the suspect. So it is a very restricted exercise here outside the Muthaiga police station, where CS Henry Rotich is being held together with PS for Treasury Kamau Thuge. But right now, remember that it may be a long night, or perhaps even a longer day for the suspects, after having been reliably informed that the prosecution is intending to file a miscellaneous application in court tomorrow seeking further detention of the suspect. It may be 7 days, it may be 14 days, but that is up to the courts tomorrow. But what we know is that it will be a long night for all the 27 suspects, and perhaps even longer days ahead. They are in trouble over the Aror and Kimore dams, and my colleague Ken Mijungu has been examining how the numbers were moved, and right now has what is now the making of the Aror and Kimore dam scandal. Ken?
Right, Seth, thank you very much. And of course, the courts will decide tomorrow. The courts will decide the fate of everyone who will be presented before it. And we suspect that all of them, by tomorrow, the 26 of them, will be arrested. So let's break this down. And fresh details have now emerged on how public officers and private firms collaborated in one of the biggest scandals of this administration and stole 19 billion shillings. Now, in the words of the Director of Public Prosecution, government officials flouted all procurement rules, abused their oath of office to ensure the scheme went through. 28 of the suspects and the directors of companies involved will now face prosecution. And this was a meticulously planned haste against the public, aided by the system and the very people who should have protected the public from the loss of public funds. When the Daily Nation broke the dam story, the reaction was swift. Those who were at the center poured cold water on the allegations. But tonight, the 63 billion shilling scandal is clearer than ever. The DPP left no doubt as to the scale of the rot in the public sector.
As the Director of Public Prosecution, I take my constitutional mandate seriously. Having seen the adverse effects of corruption in our society, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has stepped up efforts to prosecute corruption and economic crimes and bring to account those culpable, no matter their station in life.
So how did the scandal unfold? On the 18th of September last year, Aurora and Kimorel dams, there were glaring problems with the conception, procurement and payment process for the two dams located in Elgeyo Marakwet. Several people and legal entities were found to have committed criminal acts and omissions. In February 2019, preliminary findings were presented to the DPP and detailed investigations were ordered on the 8th of March 2019. Last month, the file containing the investigations was submitted to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. At the center were the Treasury, the National Environment Management Authority, the Kerio Valley Development Authority, and CMC di Ravenna, an Italian company with a branch in the country. All these entities are said to have worked to circumvent laws on procurement to ensure CMC di Ravenna was awarded the contract. To do this, KVDA chose to apply the Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2005, completely ignoring the fact that the law in 2013 prescribed for such projects under public-private partnerships. This was a first mistake. The total contract sum was $456,208,881 That's about 46 billion Kenyan shillings. However, the National Treasury negotiated a commercial facility, increasing this amount to about 63 billion shillings, 17 billion shillings more. This was a second mistake. While the commercial contract was done in US dollars, the Treasury went ahead to pay in euros, occasioning further losses to the government to the benefit of the schemers. The third deliberate mistake. A total of 19 billion shillings, 714,366,991 was paid in advance as commitment fee and for insurance. 11 billion shillings was paid upfront for insurance. An additional 4.6 billion shillings was also borrowed to pay the interest in advance during the construction period, but work is yet to begin. In fact, the project plans were submitted in January of 2019, 4 years late. This money was borrowed to pay interest on a loan that was yet to be utilized, the fourth mistake. And if that was not enough, 643 million shillings was released by the Treasury as counterpart fund for the resettlement of persons that would have been affected by the project. 4 years on, there is no evidence existing that the land was ever acquired.
They're arresting them now, I don't know.
The DPP observes that if the project was done in strict adherence to the law, it should not have cost 63 billion shillings. Ken Mijungu, NTV. Very interesting. And you know, I sat there and listened to the DPP speak about this, and
I couldn't help but try and figure out what exactly took place, and it unfolds like a movie. But the funny part, it's not actually funny because it's true. Back to you, Dennis and Smriti.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Those figures and revelations damning indeed, Dennis. I mean, 19 billion shillings that's been stolen. That is an extraordinary amount of money. You've been looking at really what can that amount of money do for Kenyans?
Yeah, you know, it's just so hard to imagine what 19 billion shillings can do. But let's just break down this figure and see what those accused of misappropriating your money have taken out of your mouth. Now, according to the latest Kenya National Bureau of Statistics Economic Survey of 2019, our population is at 47.8 million. Now, if I walked into a shop with 19 billion to buy a 2-kilogram packet of flour at an average cost of 120 shillings, I will walk out with 158,333,333 packets of flour, enough to give every Kenyan 3 packets. Now, if I added 500 milliliters of milk at an average cost of 50 shillings, I will walk away with 380 million packets of milk. Divide that by our population and everyone will drink 8 packets of milk. Now, let us break this further down to sugar. With 19 billion shillings, I can buy 86.3 million packets of 2-kilogram, mercury-free sugar, enough to give each Kenyan at least 2 packets. Better yet, if we were to use the same 19 billion shillings to make the Jubilee laptop project a reality, we could buy each of the 1.4 million pupils enrolled into Class 1 countrywide a refurbished laptop at a cost of 14,000 shillings. And there you have it. That's what 19 billion can do, and much, much more.
All right, well, Dennis, thanks for breaking that down. It certainly puts things into perspective. Shocking statistics there. All right, well, as uncertainty now hangs over the leadership of the National Treasury, we take a look at the man in the eye of the storm. That is Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, the insider economist picked to safeguard the national coffers under President Uhuru Kenyatta, now seems to have been caught with his hand in the cookie jar, as NTV's Julian's Amboko reports.
By the time Henry Rotich assumed office as Treasury Cabinet Secretary, he was no stranger to the country's finance ministry. He had been serving in the capacity of head of macroeconomics for a period spanning 7 years beginning March 2006. In this position, he was pivotal in the formulation of macroeconomic policy as well as the preparation of the annual budget policy statements, perhaps in a foretaste of what was to come much later on. Now, in this position between 2009 and 2012, he was responding directly to President Uhuru Kenyatta, who at the time was serving as the country's finance minister under the reign of President Mwai Kibaki. And now let's get to the reign of Henry Rotich as Cabinet Secretary for the Treasury. Now, he has been at pains to defend the country's appetite for debt. When he assumed office in April 2013, the country's public debt stood at 1.9 trillion shillings. Fast forward to this particular point where we stand, and as of the latest reporting, the figure stands at 5.4 trillion shillings. Now, this suggests that the public debt has effectively about tripled under Henry Rotich. This appetite for debt has not been without controversy. Henry Rotich and the National Treasury have been at pains to explain the deployment of the proceeds of the 215 billion shillings Eurobond issued in June 2014, following questions from the Office of the Auditor General. Now, still under Henry Rotich, the National Treasury has been on the spot over the potential loss of up to 67 billion shillings in irregular pension payments between 2013 and 2017, following questions from the Office of the Auditor General. Now, the Office of the Auditor General has called for tightening of the pension management information system to ensure such issues don't recur in future. Away from that, in 2017, Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich and his agriculture counterpart Willie Bett were put to task following what was the issuance of gazette notices granting importation of duty-free maize into the country. Now, taxpayers are said to have lost up to 1.9 billion shillings as rogue millers took advantage of the duty-free importation of maize. In similar fashion, in 2018, Henry Rotich came under pressure following the sanctioning of the duty-free importation of sugar into the country. Now, the country experienced an influx of importation of sugar, which is said to have resulted in the loss of about 2 billion shillings in tax evasion by rogue millers. And as the government moved to digitize the provision of services, Henry Rotich would unfortunately land on the spotlight again. It would emerge that hundreds of millions of shillings paid by ordinary citizens through the e-Citizen platform were ending up in private accounts. Now, Gold Rock Capital sued the National Treasury, among others, for what it termed as withholding of up to 127 million shillings in transaction fees. And today we have the 21 billion shillings Aror and Kimorer Dam, which now leaves the 14th floor of the building behind me in a crisis, as the two senior-most officials, the cabinet and the principal secretaries, face imminent prosecution. Julians Amboko, NTV.
Well, there you have it, the reign of Rotich. Some really interesting statistics there. Thanks, Julian Amboko. Well, now we cross over live to NTV's Kennedy Muredhi. He is in Riverside area of Nairobi.
And Kennedy is talking to a former finance minister between the years 1993 and 1997. He's currently the Amani leader, Musalia Mudavadi. Ken Muredhi, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Dennis, and there in studio. And just as you say, the arrest of Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is Henry Rotich, his PS Kamau Thuge, and some officials from different departments that represented or that were involved in this, in the building of Aror and Kimorer dams, has actually sparked so much, and in some people it has actually renewed the vigor with which the government intends to fight the war on corruption. But on this particular matter, it has caused so much jitters as much as it has caused praise within the political circles. Some of them are arguing that this is just but a charade and nothing more, because they are saying that what has been happening is not what we already do not know, and it is targeting specific people. But there are those people who've been very categorical with regards to what the president should have been doing or should be doing with regards to fighting corruption. And there has been noise from Kenyans, and there are those who've been urging President Uhuru Kenyatta to make sure that everything that happens in this country must be systematic, so that everybody gets an equal opinion or opportunity. And one such person is the leader or the party leader for the Amani National Congress, that is Musalia Mudavadi, who has been vocal. And just the other day, he started a slogan where he's been calling on President Uhuru Kenyatta in Swahili, kutoa pingu, that is handcuff all those who are involved in corruption matters. And we really want to get his view with regards to these arrests that have been there today. And we are at his home in Riverside Drive. And Mheshimiwa,
yes,
you have been talking about Toa Pingu, and it seems like your new slogan after what you came up with in 2017, that is NASA. What do you feel of today's DPP's move to have 28 officials arrested, including a cabinet secretary and his PS?
Well, I think it's a very significant development in the fight against corruption, because the concerns have been that the net or the efforts in the fight against corruption has not been targeting certain key players who the public believe should not be allowed to get away scot-free. So this is a significant development emanating from the Office of the DPP and the investigative agencies. And what I would strongly hope is that there will be a thorough and professional follow-through on this matter, so that the evidence that is adduced before the courts is evidence that can stand the test of time, so that people do not get away with anything that they should not have done.
Now, but there is also this other issue whereby already we have seen political leaders from Rift Valley who've come aside, including the senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, where these two dams are supposed to be, saying that this is a charade and it is nothing other than public show. What do you make of such statements now that they are coming at this preliminary stage where the DPP has just said, I have this case and I will prosecute it in court?
I mean, that is a very strange statement coming from the senator, because I don't know whether he's one of the lawyers that will be representing some of the people involved. All right? If he's coming from that perspective, then it is his duty to try and puncture holes in the evidence that will be adduced. So we don't know where he's really coming from. Perhaps he needs to declare that position, that is he one of the lawyers of the potential people who are going to be prosecuted.
He actually said that he represents one of them. Mm-hmm. He is a Kenyan citizen, and he cannot divorce the fact that he is still a senator.
There you are. Being a senator he can be, but now he's going to be talking and defending his clients, whoever it is. But my friend, a matter of this nature is a very serious matter. You know, to take somebody to court is a very serious development. And therefore, for it to be seen as a charade, you're trying to pour cold water on the investigative agencies. You're trying to say they don't know what they're doing. I think that is a reckless remark that needs to be taken seriously by anybody who intends to defend his client somewhere in a court of law.
Well, with this matter, and you've got very well said that taking someone to court is not a small matter.
Correct.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his remarks, that is when he was giving the State of the Nation address, and it has been captured in one of the stories by our very own Brenda Wanga, said that if you are an official and you are taken to court, that is the moment that you have to either relinquish that power or that position, or we are not going to admit you into government. Is that what should be, or should we first of all assume the innocence of this particular person until they're proven guilty by the court of law?
By the way, it is so clear that they're being taken to court because that is where they have to defend themselves. All right? They have not been convicted yet in terms of a sentence passed on them. This is a situation where the investigators have come up with what they believe is reasonable evidence to take these individuals to court. So they have their opportunity in court. They'll have their day in court to either dismiss the evidence or to be able to prove that the evidence is not valid. So that opportunity will be there. But Uhuru made a statement, and I remember he made it in the State of the Nation address. There was a lot of depression in the nation at that time, because they expected him to make a more serious pronouncement, which he didn't at that time. So it was some kind of anticlimax in the remarks he made. But nevertheless, he did pronounce that if an official of his government finds that he's in court to answer any corruption charges, then he expects that individual to leave voluntarily, or if he does not leave voluntarily, he, Uhuru, now exercising his authority as the President of the Republic of Kenya, will be able to get him out of the way.
So you support that fully?
So that is something that I support fully.
Now, there is the other question of, now that the Cabinet Secretary and his PS are no longer in office, are there officials who've been given the mandate to act as the Cabinet Secretary and the PS when it comes to probably signing documents? Because you'll realize that we're just a few days into a new financial year. And also governors have been clamoring for more money. And probably if this persists, then there might be a total lockdown, not just in the counties, but probably also in the national government.
I'm sure Uhuru is seized with that. Uhuru himself has been the Minister for Finance, and he knows that the Treasury, or the Cabinet Secretary Treasury, is a very important portfolio in the context of signing off any financial requirements. That is very, very critical. So he can gazette somebody to act in the interim while he makes up his mind as to who he wishes to be in that docket. Or perhaps we may be thinking and we may be talking here and he has already thought of it, and he may just directly make a pronouncement about his new minister and then go through the processes of parliament.
If you're given that job,
but in the meantime, what will look more logical is in an acting capacity. And then if he's bringing in a new person, that person would have to go through the vetting process of parliament as required by the law today.
You have been in that particular office, and if you're given that opportunity by the president to probably serve as the Minister or the Cabinet Secretary for that particular portfolio, would you take it up?
No, and I would like to kill that notion immediately, because I've stated categorically that I'm firmly in the opposition at this point in time. There are issues that I can commend the government for, but there are issues that I reserve my right to be the voice of reason and the alternative voice to criticize and tell them that they are treading on the wrong path. Issues like the public debt, issues like the corruption, which I've been highlighting from time to time, and so many other issues. So, my friend, on this one, let everybody know that no, I am okay serving as the opposition leader in ANC, and I will not take up any public assignment.
Before I let you go, then there's the other question probably, that also when you were in government during the Moi era, there is also another scandal that had been, you had been involved in, and probably it is a matter that involved the Postmaster General, and is how the President is handling this matter, or how the investigative agencies are handling this matter, probably the right way, probably on that other question which involved you and the Postmaster General, and the scandal in which you were involved in. Were you able to finish that matter, or is it a matter, or how is the DPP handling the whole of this?
I think it would be good to remind people, and indeed you covered me on this, the media houses. I was a witness. I testified publicly. I gave my evidence in court. And it is within the public domain. It's just that you are refusing to go back into your archives and realize that that is a matter where I gave evidence. I testified as a prosecution witness. Okay? So it is as good as over. What is important is that I know the matter is still proceeding in court, and therefore I cannot say any more. But from the position where I testified, that is when I made public my position in the court of law. All right? And that is how it should be.
Well, thank you very much. We leave it at that, as we do expect now that Mudavadi has said that if he is offered that position, he is not ready to take up that position of Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury. And we will be looking, all eyes will be on President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has already said that if a Cabinet Secretary has been arraigned in a court of law, then that means that that is the end of his job. Will he keep his promise, or will the Cabinet Secretary, that is Henry Rotich, be given back his job if he is arraigned in court? Probably it is a matter that we can only wait to see. Back to you in studio.
Well, very many thanks, Kennedy Moredi there, speaking to former Finance Minister Musalia Mudavadi.
All right, we have to take a break right here on NTV Tonight, but when we come back, we continue our coverage of the big blow at Treasury. Stay with us.
Hey beautiful people, this is Gilad. On July 26th, I'll be right here at the new Nairobi Hospital Convention Center, speaking at Africa's Agripreneurs Summit 2019. For years we've known that the most available means of wealth creation for Africa is agribusiness. What was once an old and stuffy sector has now transformed into a space for young, innovative, business-minded leaders. Don't miss this unique opportunity for a front row seat to hear about agribusiness in Africa.
Can I buy a chocolate, please? It's for my mom. Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you, Bella. There's a class and a half in everyone.
Beat germs with Jik.
kills 99.9% of germs on your kitchen surfaces, sponges, chopping boards, sink and fridge, and your bathroom taps, shower head, basin and surfaces. Just Jick It. Look out for our new improved packaging in store. Just Jick It.
Every day, history repeats itself. A scientist takes one small step. A genius finds a solution. A record is broken. A legend is born. Every day, history repeats itself here at Wood Creek School. Because we believe every child is a promise of something great. And it's our job to find the greatness within. So we welcome you to our open day on the 3rd and 4th of August from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our campus on Committee Road.
There you go, Daisy. Don't I just love you? She seems to like me a lot.
Uliumia venye ulianguka. Toka wapi? Wewe ni kama umeangushwa leo mchana saa 6 ati ukuje ulete jua.
Mtaenda pale nje kwa counter. Mnunue bidhaa kadhaa. Kuna sabuni ya kuosha vyombo ambayo unaweza tumia kusafisha hata nini? Kusafisha hata meno. Wonders shall never cease. Me, Victor Volcano Mayweather Diambo, the first of that name, from Kogelo.
Soil Merchants Property Developers have incredible offers for prime residential and commercial plots in Kiserian Town. Welcome to our open day on 27th July 2019. SMS LAND to 21595.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Now, while much of the focus has been on Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, the web of graft allegations also caught his principal secretary, that's Kamau Thuge, the quiet but ever-present figure by Rotich's side.
Dr. Kamau Thuge has kept a low profile despite being the unseen hand at Treasury, the country's purse strings. NTV Zainab Ismail unpacks the second most powerful man at Treasury.
Tall, middle-built with grey hair, perhaps evidence of his experience in the world of finance, Dr. Kamau Thuge holds one of the most powerful positions in the country and is the second in command to the Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich at the Treasury.
Secretary, do swear that, except with the authority of the President.
He has been relatively media-shy since he took office. However, he's also fast among equals when it comes to control over the country's budget and one of the few civil servants whose position is created by an act of parliament. Always beside CS Rotich in official capacity. Before his appointment to the National Treasury as the Principal Secretary, Thuge started his employment in the International Monetary Fund as an economist, senior economist and deputy division chief. He came back to the Ministry of Finance as a senior economic advisor from the year 2010. Despite keeping an extremely low profile, PS Thuge has however been a man of interest on numerous occasions that revolved around the loss of money. But the most notable was the infamous Eurobond saga.
Mention the persons of interest in the Eurobond saga. One, Mr. Joseph Kenywa, Chief of Staff in the Presidency and Head of Civil Service. Two, Mr. Henry Rotich, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury. Three, Dr. Patrick Kamau Thuge, Principal Secretary, National Treasury.
In July 2017, Thuge was taken to task for relying on an illegal audit report to instigate investigations into the Anglo leasing scandal. But away from that, his stance on the country's growing public debt being sustainable has been one that has caused ripples across the country. The most recent, however, was the summoning by MPs earlier this month over the glaring financial irregularities in the ministry's books of accounts, as contained in the 2016-2017 report of the Auditor General. His arrest over the dams scandal is now another black mark on his already checkered record. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
The National Treasury is the central cog of government machinery, given its critical role in the disbursement of funds to the national and county governments, ministries, state departments and agencies.
As such, the prosecution of those at the top echelons of its hierarchy could have far-reaching ramifications, not only on how the Treasury is run, but on the country at large. Here now is Alex Mwangi, who explores what the recent developments could mean for you.
The National Treasury is akin to the oil that keeps the engine that is the government running. Handling an annual budget in excess of 3 trillion shillings, including funding for all the 47 county governments, is no walk in the park. Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich and the Principal Secretary Dr. Kamau Thuge, both with decades of experience in public financial management, are at the apex of the Treasury's governance structure. In senior management at Treasury is also the Chief Administrative Secretary, Nelson Gaishuhie, as well as the Senior Economic Advisor to the Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Geoffrey Mwao. 5 other men, Bernard Ndongo, Dr. Haron Sirima, Albert Mwenda, Engineer Stanley Kamau, and Francis Musimi, round up the team that will take the hit in the absence of Rotich and Dr. Thuge. Disruption at the National Treasury could have catastrophic consequences for Kenyans, as it is the office from which the Consolidated Fund is operated. Any public spending at the grassroots can be traced back to the National Treasury, and as such, a vacuum at the office could lead to a slowdown in the disbursement of funds, cascading down to adversely impact the economy. At the worst, public services can grind to a halt, but the executive is likely to intervene to avoid such a scenario. The post of the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the country's financial purse strings is also politically sensitive, and the ouster of Rotich, if he is compelled to leave his post, will undoubtedly shake the Jubilee government to the core. Among other things, the National Treasury's mandate encompasses the task of mobilizing domestic and external resources to finance the national and county government's budgetary requirements. In line with this, Rotich has found the going tough in seeking to put a lid on the growth of the percentage of the national cake that is directed towards salaries and remunerations.
The public sector wage bill continues to rise, leaving fewer and fewer resources for development. Certainly, this is not a good practice, and no meaningful development can be realized unless we reverse the trend.
The Treasury is also charged with preparing the annual division of revenue bill and the county allocation of revenue bill. It is the division of revenue bill that is now the subject of a looming showdown between governors, the Senate and the Commission on Revenue Allocation on one side, and the National Assembly on the other, in a matter that is now acting out in the corridors of justice. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Well, with those latest developments and what many people anticipate is going to happen in the week, there are those who are floating a few names around on social media, but now it's up to the president to make that fast move.
And definitely a story that we will be following closely, so stay with us here at NTV as we unravel the latest developments that come with this. All right, well, just what is the cost of corruption? The Director of Public Prosecutions detailed just how much of a stain graft is on the country's fabric. Listen in.
Public corruption is a blunted abuse of power by persons in position of authority, and it threatens the very fabric of our nation. Kenyans have seen and experienced firsthand how public corruption tears us apart, undermines and destroys our governance structures, betrays the citizens' trust, and kills the civic spirit of people by robbing them of the hope that they can live in a country that is not fundamentally rigged against them and which nobody is above the law, no matter how powerful.
The arrest of Treasury CS Rotich and other senior officials over the Aurora and Kimorer Dam scandal puts Deputy President William Ruto in a very awkward position. The DP has been vocal on the matter, accusing the DPP and the DCI of witch hunting as investigations dragged on. He is one of those highly charged statements made by the country's second in command.
We've heard, for example, that the government has lost 21 billion in Kimorer and Aurora Dam, which is a flat lie. The money in question is about 7 billion. And for every coin that has been paid, we have a bank guarantee. No money will be lost because we are a responsible government. We have engaged every arm of government to make sure that public resources are safe, and therefore the correct information must be used as we target the fight against corruption so that we can nail the true culprits. Sometimes when we say 9 billion has been lost, and then when it goes to court, it is 100 million. The public is asking, what happened to 8.1 billion? So we shoot ourselves in the foot.
All right, at this point, it's time to take another break on NTV Tonight.
And Julian Samboko will be here with the latest in business news. Stay with us.
The Aerial Assurance Challenge.
Asante sana. Sasa, ni nini kingine ambacho unaweza kumfanyia msichana wetu?
Kila kitu. Hata kufua nguo na Aerial mpya.
Basi, tuonyeshe.
Hey, sasa fanya haya madoa yawe sugu zaidi. Sasa tufue kwa kutumia sabuni yako na kutumia Aerial mpya. Aerial sasa inapatikana kwenye pakiti mpya. Unaniamini sasa? Aerial huondoa madoa sugu kwa mwosho mmoja tu.
Nation FM. More music and less talk. Nairobi 96.3, Mombasa 101.5, Meru 93.9, Nyeri 104.9, Eldoret 102.7, and Nakuru on 97.7. Follow us on social media on Facebook at Nation FM, Instagram at Nation FM, and on Twitter at Nation FM KE. Nation FM. More music and less talk.
Ever since we began, KEMSA has steadily grown from simple storage handling to an innovative, fully fledged healthcare distribution service that can undertake the needs of all the 47 counties efficiently and effectively. In this competitive industry, our new business model has allowed us to become your most reliable partner in healthcare. KEMSA's mandate is to offer a superior service but not for profit. And our baseline principle remains affordable healthcare for all citizens. This is the motivating challenge that makes us get up very early every morning.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Making my family some nutritious porridge is a painstaking process. First, I have to find all the ingredients needed, and there are many. For vitamins, proteins, and minerals, I need cassava, sorghum, millet.
You no longer need to go through all that to make nutritious porridge.
All you need is NutriPro.
You don't have to go through the trouble of finding, measuring, and weighing all these vital ingredients. New NutriPro porridge flour comes fortified with 13 vitamins, proteins, and minerals. This means that you have more time to focus on what's important, giving your family the healthy start they deserve. NutriPro, bringing families together. From Tropical Brand.
I told you to kick it more to the left.
No, kick it higher.
No, to the left.
Come on, guys, stop it. Remember the win.
OneXBet, African betting partner of Tottenham Hotspur.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth, causing that discomfort. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne to their patients. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down, and the proof's in the results. It works.
And let's get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko, and we start on the logistics front. Now, over 50 trucks carrying tons of maize are currently stuck in Mombasa. This is after their maize failed to get into the market due to the ongoing maize importation row. The businessmen, reportedly from Tanzania, are complaining that they have been in Mombasa for several days. According to some of the drivers, their employers sent them to Kenya with the commodity, following concerns raised that there is shortage of grain in the country. Kevin Mutai spoke to some of the drivers in Mombasa.
Our spot check in some of the streets within Mombasa, especially around Kingorani, showed that the number of trucks from Tanzania have increased. Each truck is carrying at least 30 tons of maize that is meant to be sold to the local millers. According to the drivers, it has been more than 5 days of waiting.
Wanasema Kenya kuna uhaba wa chakula. Tunavoleta chakula tena umo njiani tunapambana na askari. Askari anapanga kiwango yeye anachotaka aweze kupata akizi matatizo ya kwake. Haangalii wewe umetoka wapi. Sasa hilo ni tatizo nalo. Pili, tumefika hapa, tumevuka mpaka leo siku ya 5. Hakuna kinachoendelea na mpaka sasa hatuelewi. Ni lini tutaondoka? Ni lini kinachoendelea hatujui.
The pull and push of a maize shortage in the country has seemingly opened a window of opportunity for dubious imports, with some stakeholders within the Ministry of Agriculture claiming that the shortage is artificial and only meant to benefit cartels.
Ombi langu kubwa, kama itawezekana wenye viwanda waweze kuchukua mahindi kwa haraka, angalau siku tuepusha gharama, ama gari ziweze zuiwa hata mpakani ziingie kwa idadi ambao wanaweza kushukisha. Kama wanaweza kushukisha gari 15 kwa siku, gari zije hizo 15 ili zisije kukaa. Zikifika ziingie mtamboni, zishushe na ziweze kuondoka. Kuliko kuja kujazana hapa, watu wanakaa wiki 2-3, wanapata gharama kubwa ambayo ni gharama kubwa kuliko hela ambayo dereva analipwa ama msaidizi wake.
The Strategic Food Reserve maintains that the grain is enough to sustain the country for several months until the next harvest. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
And away from that, Nation Media Group has partnered with HIVOS East Africa and the Institute of Economic Affairs to establish an open contracting portal which will provide data on public procurement. The OC portal will enable visibility for media story linkages, data-backed storytelling, and support the shelf life for procurement-related stories. Speaking during the signing of the MOU, NMG's editorial director Mutuma Matthew said the portal will be a premier source for journalists across Kenya and will provide critical information on procurement, thus supporting timely and informed reporting on stories.
We are excited to partner with these two institutions. This is an important research tool, and we hope that it will contribute towards enforcing accountability in public expenditure. The portal will be hosted by the Nation Media Group, but will be developed in collaboration with HIVOS and IEA. I wish to thank HIVOS for giving us the opportunity to collaborate with them, and we look forward to a long-term and sustainable partnership.
This public procurement portal, what we're hoping for it is something that allows for the analysis, comparability, and interoperability of public contracting information for storytelling. So we also believe the portal will be useful to civil society and citizens for research and advocacy for public contracting reforms in Kenya.
And staying with Nation Media, the top 100 mid-sized companies survey for 2019 has been launched. The initiative between Nation Media Group's Business Daily and KPMG seeks to recognize mid-sized companies that thrive in their spaces by creating employment for Kenyans, running efficiently and positively impacting the economy. Mid-sized companies that make a turnover of between 50 million shillings and 1 billion shillings have been called upon to enter the survey, which has proved beneficial for hundreds of companies, including those that have entered the Club 101, which is the group of companies with an annual turnover that exceeds the 1 billion shilling mark.
We started in one small room, purely concerned about the operational function of the business. Today, as we see it, it's becoming very structured. It has become very structured, and we are more strategic in everything that we do. And we have seen growth. I'm glad to say we've seen growth of over 100%. And we know that this is what we desire. We intend to continue growing.
It's given us good exposure in terms of publicity, being associated with KPMG and the Nation Media Group. Even the financial institutions take it very, very positively when they see a company is participating in awards like Top 100 and Club 101.
So for us at Nation and as journalists, we don't see supporting business as an extension of our business, but rather as a duty in keeping to that mission.
We see that most of the SMEs will focus primarily on the operational side of business. But for them to move and scale up, they need to go to the strategic part of it.
According to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 5.6 million working age Kenyans are currently economically inactive. And the largest unemployment rate is recorded in the age cohort of between 20 and 24 years. This is 19.2%. I believe that supporting the growth of SMEs in this country is one of the solutions that will help create employment and reduce this number significantly.
An exciting opportunity for medium-sized companies. And finally, to the capital markets. The East African Cables and its parent firm TransCentury Limited have completed a debt restructuring deal that has reduced the group's debt by nearly half. The transaction reduced the group's debt by 1.65 billion shillings, equivalent of 44% of the total debt, and offered a 10-year extension to the tenor of the remaining debts, rather. TransCentury has invested in a range of infrastructure companies, including East African Cables, but which has struggled with a heavy debt burden, losses and a plunge in its share price. The deal cuts the combined group's debt service cash requirements by more than 80% over the next 2 years. And that's it from the business desk. We'll leave you with the rest of the broadcast.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
Mary has a toothache.
Oh, I see. And who knows why?
Because her tooth is too big.
No, it might be a hole in her tooth called a cavity. That's why I brush twice a day using Colgate.
Imagine this is your tooth and these are food acids that cause cavities. Colgate with calcium and fluoride helps prevent cavities
for maximum cavity protection. And now available in a 12-gram sachet for fresh breath. Only 15 shillings.
John suffers from indigestion. His twin James suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
You in the pollution? Yes, you. Dry throat? Strepsils. Gal in the smoke with a raspy voice? Strepsils. Hello, in the downpour with a scratchy throat? Take Strepsils. Get soothing relief for any throat irritation. Strepsils with its medicinal ingredients will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Why are so many children absent? Children have become weaker. Children have not become weaker. Infection-causing germs have become stronger, making infections more severe. New Lifebuoy with Active Natural protects from today's stronger germs.
Every day, history repeats itself. A scientist takes one small step. A genius finds a solution. A record is broken. A legend is born. Every day, history repeats itself here at Wood Creek School. Because we believe every child is a promise of something great. And it's our job to find the greatness within. So we welcome you to our open day on the 3rd and 4th of August from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our campus on Committee Road.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Smriti Vidyarthi.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's now just have a quick look at other stories making headlines today. The Ministry of Health says there is no case of bird flu or swine flu in the country, quelling fears of an outbreak of the deadly disease. The ministry, however, warned of a contagious strain of influenza after one person succumbed to the illness this weekend. 4 cases had been reported in Nairobi alone, and the other 3 patients are responding well to treatment, with one being treated as an outpatient. The public is advised to seek treatment at any nearest health facility if one experiences major cold-like symptoms.
State House Digital Director Dennis Itumbi has been charged with 3 offences of making a false document without authority, publishing a false statement and reprogramming a mobile phone in relation to the alleged fake letter claiming a plot to assassinate the Deputy President. Itumbi, who was arraigned before Senior Principal Magistrate Kennedy Cheruiyot, denied the charges. He was released on a cash bail of 100,000 shillings and ordered to deposit his passport in court. The prosecution had wanted the court to grant him stringent bond terms and that he be barred from publishing anything related to the case on social media. But his lawyer, Kato Kigen, says the charges against him were ridiculous.
All right, and across the border, 17 people have been killed and more than 24 wounded when a car bomb exploded in Mogadishu, Somalia today. The blast near a security checkpoint on the main road to the international airport reverberated through the city and sent massive plumes of black smoke into the air. Witnesses described scenes of carnage as a car veered out of traffic and detonated outside the main gate of a hotel with tremendous force. Al-Shabaab militants claimed responsibility for the attack. While the attack comes just over a week after 26 people were killed and 56 injured in a 12-hour attack by Al-Shabaab jihadists on a popular hotel in the southern Somali port city of Kismayo.
Let's take another short break for sports.
There you go, Daisy. Don't I just love you? She seems to like me a lot.
Uliumia venye ulianguka.
Toka wapi?
Wewe ni kama umeangushwa leo mchana saa 6 ati ukuje ulete jua.
Mtaenda pale nje kwa counter. Mnunue bidhaa kadhaa. Kuna sabuni ya kuosha vyombo ambayo unaweza tumia kusafisha hata nini? Kusafisha hata meno. Wonders shall never cease. Me, Victor Volcano Mayweather Odhiambo, the first of that name, from Kogelo.
Soil Merchants Property Developers have incredible offers for prime residential and commercial plots in Kiserian Town. Welcome to our open day on 27th July 2019. SMS LAND to 21595.
Let's have a quick look on NTV Sports. Welcome, my name is Brian Otuala. Steering and local organizing committee that will oversee preparations for the World Under-20 Championships scheduled in Kenya next year has been set up. This was revealed by Cabinet Secretary for Sports Amina Mohamed, who visited the Athletics Kenya office's Riadha House. Meanwhile, the CS has once again promised the completion of promised stadia across the country, with the Athletics Village in Kenyatta University also set to be completed in time for the championship. Over 160 countries are expected to take part in the championship for July 2020. And Football Kenya Federation Disciplinary Committee will have between 30 to 45 days to give a report on the investigation of the conduct of CEO Robert Mudhomi, who has since stepped aside, with the FKF appointing Barry Otieno to act in the position. Meanwhile, FKF President Nick Mwendwa spoke on the betting crackdown even as national football teams Harambee Stars and Harambee Starlets prepare for their different qualifying tournaments. In a move to deal with the fallout and bad publicity at the Football Kenya Federation leadership, President Nick Mwendwa has appointed its communications manager Barry Otieno to the position of CEO in acting capacity.
Thank you.
Barry replaces Robert Mudhomi, who has since stepped aside following a botched transfer attempt of striker John Avire from Sofapaka to an Egyptian side, pending the decision of the FKF Disciplinary Committee.
We want to maintain
fairness for all parties involved, the club, the player, and the CEO, so that we can allow the committee to do its work properly and thoroughly and make a report to us on how to move forward.
The Sofapaka striker has until December 2020 in his contract. Away from the administrative fallout, the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations done and dusted, Harambee Stars coach Sebastian Minye has less time to settle in as his real contracted test begins, with the federation adamant that the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations was his contracted target. But first, Minye will be guiding Stars to qualify for their first ever Africa Nations Championships CHAN participation against Tanzania this weekend.
We are looking forward to put a fight with an ambition and clarity that we want to get back to the Cup of Nations in 2021. There are no longer big teams and small teams in Africa. We cannot guarantee it, of course, but we want to be there in 2021. This is not like 2019 when we didn't have a plan to be there.
The national women's team Harambee Starlets are in camp as well, preparing for the upcoming Olympics qualifier against Malawi, minus several veterans such as Nadia Tieno, Israel-based Elsie Akida, and Sweden-based duo of Mary Kinuthia and Christine Nafula.
Realistically, we're not a World Cup nation yet in terms of women. Realistically, we want to prepare this team now in this competition, but for Women Cup of Nations, which has now increased to 12 teams. And how to do that, we realize that for women, even more so than men, you have to bring in the girls from school faster. Because if you don't do that, very quickly you find that the girls who have been there are not replaced by equal or better talent.
The FKF president also weighed in on the recent regulation crackdown by the government on the betting companies and what that holds for the sporting fraternity in general, as well as the National Sports Fund, a source of funding for the sports federations.
While I understand that there are issues with government and which are for government to deal with around regulations, around betting, I just want to say that the game needs money. And today 70% of investment in football around the world is done by betting companies.
And Kenyan champions Gor Mahia have been drawn against Aigle Noah CS of Burundi in the preliminary round of the CAF Champions League. Last year, Gor missed out on the group stage after going down 2-0 to Nigeria's Lobby Stars. The aggregate winner of the first round will meet either USM Alger of Algeria or Niger's Sonidep in the second round. Meanwhile, Bandari FC will be out to make amends of their poor performance in the 2016 Confederation Cup when they take on Sudan's Al Ahli Shandi in the preliminary round. The Dockers, who are returning to the competition after winning the SportPesa Shield last season, were bundled out by Congolese side St. Eloi Lupopo in the preliminary round following a 3-1 aggregate loss. Should the Dockers win, they will face either US Ben Guedan of Tunisia or South Sudan's Amarat in the next round. And the national men's basketball team, Morans, that story will be taking it later. Moving on, GSU, United and KCB women's volleyball teams are the winners of the 2019 KVF Arthur Odera Open Malaba tournament after beating Kenya Pipeline 3-0 in that match played in Busia. KCB beat Kenya Pipeline in straight sets to be crowned the women champions. The Bankers won 4 matches in straight sets to set up a semi-final clash with Bungoma County, who they also saw off 3-0 to set up a final date with Pipeline. The Oilers dispatched DCI 3-0 in the second semi. GSU came from 2 sets down to beat KPA 3-2 in the final. On their way to the finals, GSU overpowered Equity Bungoma County in one of the semis, while KPA beat Equity Bank 3-1 in the second semi. KCB and GSU are currently leading the KVF standings with 3 outings to go. And FIFA planned takeover, that is the FIFA planned takeover, the running of a CAF is set to face a possible roadblock with an executive committee member of CAF seeking to challenge the decision in court. Hassan Beliti, who is from Liberia and a CAF executive committee member for last 2 years, said he will ask the Swiss-based Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, to declare invalid the agreement by FIFA that will see the Secretary General Fatma Samura sent on a secondment to overhaul the African governing body. money. Bility also wants the court to compel CAF to start a forensic audit of its finances, which the executive committee had previously agreed, but CAF President Ahmad then stalled it. CAF is in crisis following corruption allegations against Ahmad, which he has denied. That is all we had for you from our sporting desk. A lot more tomorrow in our subsequent bulletins. Have a lovely night. My name is Brian Otwal.
Well, very many thanks, Brian. It has been a very, very heavy bulletin.
Yeah, it has been indeed, but it doesn't really quite end here, does it?
Yeah, well, it doesn't. We've been covering one of the biggest scandals in the country, but Olive Barris is coming up next with Press Pass, and with our panel, they're discussing matters of corruption. My name is Dennis Okari.
All right, do stay tuned for Press Pass coming up in just a moment. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks also to David Agondoa, our sign language interpreter tonight. I'm Smriti Vidyarthi. Stay tuned.
This is NTV.